All right, so here we are, finally getting restarted on the Jeep project back here. I know it's been a while. It's been very busy around here. We had a lot of things going on back there at the plasma table. Required a bunch of maintenance, had some gears go bad in the side. It was causing me all kinds of issues. So I had to fix that to get some customer work out. And you can kind of, underneath here, we've got a little sign that we're working on for a customer, for his custom sign for his sake lounge. So we got to do that one. We did the internal sign, he wants an external sign. And we got a few more signs for the business that we want to get into. But this is back on the Jeep project. So now, getting caught back up. The holidays were busy. Christmas was busy. Busy in a great way. Lots of good sales. You know, absolutely love that. And then I got sick. Went on vacation. Got sick and recovering. So I just so absolutely weak. I wasn't able to do anything for a good couple weeks now. So, but again, I'm feeling a little bit better. We got a little bit of time. We're going to come back to the Jeep. So go ahead and give you a recap of where we were. So as you can see down in here, you know, we've removed this brace. You know, it's just sitting free here, okay? We got the one down there that is basically removed, except this far side is still tack welded down, and I left that on purpose for this video. So let me get over there and show you why. Okay. So what I've done is this side is tack welded down, just like the whole things were, but there's so much rust right here in this section, it's basically just gone. There's nothing there. So instead of chasing all these tack welds through this rusty metal, what I'm going to do in this video is cut out the bottom lip and leave it attached to the floorboard just to pull this piece up. With the number of spot welds that were in there and the amount of metal that is basically just gone from drilling that out, if I choose to reuse these pieces, and there's some options, I may not reuse them, but if I choose to, that's all going to need to be new metal anyway, and then some new holes to, you know, plug weld that. So we're just going to cut off this side, and if I got to weld in a new flange, we'll weld in a new flange. So I'm going to go ahead and get the camera mounted, get this set up for the next steps, and we'll go ahead and get this out, and then we're going to do some marking on the floorboard and get the floorboard pulled out. And there's a unique combination of angles back here. So this side will replace this panel that wraps under, and there's a lip, all the way around that folds under here. So this lip folds under. But inside, the floorboard comes up to the edge and has a lip. So there's a lip sitting here that is resting on this lip, and then I am going to pretty much lay money is spot welded all the way along through here. So the inside edge of that comes forward and then rolls down. That downward roll is what I believe is going to be spot welded along there. So we're going to cut this out, leaving a little metal around the periphery that if there's good metal to weld to, I'll weld to it, and we'll just ignore that spot welded strip piece. But if it has to come out, it has to come out. So we'll go ahead and get in here. Let me get the camera set up, and we'll come back and start taking some stuff out. Alrighty, here we go. Get a little cleanup going so I don't have to sit in all these metal filings. I don't mind sitting in a few. I just don't want to sit in all of them. There we go. Okay. There's that. There's that. Got our cutter. We're going to go and buzz along the inside of this and come straight out to the edge here. At least that's the plan. See how that goes. Okay, hearing protection, eye protection. And So this is what I was trying to show. This whole lip was gone right here and rusted beyond belief. Right here, by the time I welded those, cut those spot welds out, there'd be nothing left. And again, the bottom side, you'll see there's a cup in here. And that cup is basically just rusted away. There's a hole right through it. This is where normally the body bolt goes through here and bolts into the frame. And you can see there's just nothing left here. So we were gonna end up having to rebuild all of this stuff anyway. So this had to come out. So whether or not I use this, I still don't know. I'm debating. Might do roll cage and attach here, tubing to the other side and just come up with the roll cage. It's possible I salvage these for some point, you know, maybe keep this piece to attach the roll cage tubing to go across and refab this. Just kind of up in the air, but it's out now. So there we go. So let's get this marked up and figure out what we're going to do next, because quite honestly, I don't have a clue. Okay. So we've got that, and then what we're going to end up doing is kind of along here, bringing this metal up, and there's some rust holes and some metal that'll need to be replaced, so we'll probably end up having to put a patch, you know, take this slope and bring it down into here, into this piece of metal, and basically form that edge and cut it back, and you know, but we'll cut to fit when we get there. But essentially we're going to come across right about here and take all this out. Okay, so we'll take that piece out, then we'll lay some flat metal in, because we've got flat kind of here-ish. We're flat to about there. But we'll cut that out. We're going to leave this for a little bit of reference because I got a little bit of arch left here. So I'm going to leave that metal over there. What I do have to be careful of when cutting is that frame section. You can see it here. We don't want to cut through that. I mean, if I do, it's not a huge deal. We'll just take the angle grinder and skim through, and we can just weld that back up if we go through. But I'd rather just cut as little as possible. This is going to be the trickier part back in that corner because I'd like to put a rectangular patch in. It's not too bad metal-wise up through here. And it'd be nice to keep a lip because this lip comes up right up here. And if I could get in and just cut and butt that, that'd be pretty nice. What do I got here? I can't really see the construction technique. There's so much rust on here. I see a gap, and I'm not 100% sure what this is sitting on. If it was rolled, or did that rust, or what. But it looks like I might have to take this piece out. There we go. More junky floorboard. Yep, and exactly as I had anticipated, the floorboard comes over and rolls and is welded on the inside edge there. Too bad it's welded here where the water collected and it goes through the back wall. Boy. I could almost cut that whole back piece off. It's just a flat rolled piece of metal on the back side. That might be what happens. Got to get this out. That's definitely going to have to come out just so I can get in. I mean, I can cut the sheet metal here to get forward of it, but I got to watch out. Yeah, there's a piece of this bracket that goes this way as well. So we got to be sure that when I'm cutting this sheet metal out that I don't cut into that piece of the bracket. So this edge rolls up and that edge rolls down. That's not too bad. Square edge here. It's going to be interesting fitting that back corner because we're going to come up and roll this. Boy, I was really hoping there was a lot more good metal here. Let me grab this. Forgive the, well, I'll leave that for now. But basically this back wall's got a bunch of holes in it. That has to be replaced. And yeah, I think it might be best just to roll another edge like I made this patch, continue that down, and then just cut that whole thing off right there, and then work with this with whatever I do. Whether I drill that out, I don't know. But that's enough for now. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits for today. I'm still a little whipped from being sick, but we'll come back and we'll cut that back piece out. Yeah, let me grab the camera here so you can see what I'm talking about. So, right here's a hole, here's a hole. There we go. So there's holes here, and this metal is rusted all through here on the other side, and it goes way over. All right, so we can see a little more rust here, but it's flat metal from this seam down. So if I come through and cut, all that really is a new flat piece with a flange on the bottom. And down here solid. Like, I don't need to do anything with that. That piece can stay. But it's this section where the floorboard was that's bad. So I can keep all of this. This is solid. And put my patch. Boy, that really got bent. Somebody really whacked that thing right there. I don't know if you can see. When they set it down, I think it rolled out. Yeah, the other side's not that way, but this side definitely is. This whole bottom piece is tipped like this. Maybe we can hammer that back in or something. Yeah, not too bad, but yeah, I think I might do that. I'm gonna go ahead and we'll cut this out along here. Taking that rolled edge, and we'll build a new panel like we did there. Patch that panel in with the rolled edge, come in, meet this rolled edge, weld them together, new panel. All right, that's enough for today. Okay, so yesterday I spent a little time analyzing after yesterday's video, and I did end up removing this rifle buttstock mount. Basically what I had to do is get in there with a die grinder and kind of hollow out the head of the bolt and then knock it off with a chisel, and I'll have to deal with the studs that remain in there at some point later. It might be that I weld bolts in and bolt this down with nuts from the top. I don't know what I'll do exactly, but these are inside of God, my brain cramp here. Inside of the rockers, so I can't get to the underside, backside, anything like that, so it was address it from the top only. And I really couldn't get in there with a drill just to drill out the tops of the screws, just because the angle and the body of the drill, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a long process of die grinder and chisel. As you can see, a bunch of chisel marks to get those off of there, pop that off, get it out. Okay, now that that's out of the way, we cut this out yesterday, gave us a good look at back here, and this back wall from where the battery box was and the acid leaking caused all this corrosion, and of course it builds up along this lip. So funny enough, the top side of the lip here is rusted almost completely through in many places. The bottom side is not. So one of the things we might be able to do, and I'll get around the other side to show that, is when we go to replace this rusted strip, we're going to leave the bottom curve. It's good metal, so we're going to leave that in there. Okay, at least that's the plan right now. So we cut this out really just to give myself some room to work, get crap out of the way. You can see the line we're going to continue here. Then we're going to take this line across over here and bring this in about here And again, this is really just to give us room to work, to see what we have to work with, because underneath this piece continues up to almost the rear wall, honestly. And then there's a T that comes up and joins this. And we don't want to cut into that. That's the frame supports underneath. So what I'm going to have to do is kind of very carefully grind through the top layer with the angle grinder until we get past those areas. So pretty much the whole thing, this whole rectangle we got to take out, I'm going to do with the angle grinder and do it really carefully and slowly. Here we cut on the outside of this line, so we're going to try and follow that as much as we can. There are some dents in here from when we were pulling this piece out, that once that's out, we'll have to bring that back up to plane before we put new metal in, just so it all lines up. But that's the rough plan right now. So let me go ahead and get the ear protection on, we'll get the grinder out, and we'll start doing some cutouts here. One of the things I was afraid of when they spot welded, I wasn't sure if the spot welds sandwiched this with that top piece, or if that top piece was spot welded only to the body. And it looks like it did indeed sandwich it, so that's going to be a little bit of a problem. Not too bad. I mean, we'll just take the angle grinder and cut around it and then have to grind it off. But it is one thing I was hoping we weren't going to have to deal with. But now you can see here where I'm not fully up to that edge. So I'm going to take the angle grinder and cut this piece off so I can get to this edge here. I was hoping these would just pop right up, but looks like they're going to be problematic. Let me see. Let's give it one more just quick shot here in case they're just a little stuck. Nope, can really see how this is bending, that it's right on those spot welds. Oh boy, look at that. Glad nobody was home there. Get what we can of this out of the way. There we go. And this one's already coming out right there. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. And now we can see right here where we're still attached a little teeny bit. And we might be able to just take that off with the chisel. Let's try that. Instead of more grinding, we're going to be a little more prescriptive here. Yep, there's a spot weld right there. Let's see it peeling up. But luckily we can chisel through that little there. Okay, there's that one. Same thing over here, a little teeny spot weld. There we go. That's not too bad. We got in there a little bit. Being that the floorboard was already spot welded to this at certain points, one of my big concerns was that when I weld the new piece in, we're going to weld to this. But it's already fixed there anyway, so no big deal. I just didn't want to weld down if it was originally floating. But since we don't have that to worry about, that's even easier. These guys out of here.
go. More junk. Okay. And now we can see that frame piece that I mentioned that comes down and it joins the inner rocker and then supports this entire side structure here. I don't know if we'll be able to chisel this off. This was a lot of spot welds, but let's see. Nope, that's gonna be some grinder work for sure. All right, lucky twice. Let's see if we can get those spot welds to pop up. That'd be nice. That looks pretty good. Looks like we might have a couple here that are still holding strong. Let's see if we can get an air chisel in there. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Nice. And we've got at least one here, maybe one there. There goes that one. There it is. Oh, that was so nice. That came out easy. Thank you. All right, there's the spot weld. Here's the back piece of that toe I mentioned to you. So when we put the piece over, we're going to take the angle grinder and kind of cut it as we're welding it in place. Oh wait, sorry, not this one. This one's different. I'm getting ahead of myself here. If I were just dropping in a patch, that's what I would do, is cut the patch a little bit larger, tack weld it all the way around, and then do a plunge cut and a tack weld. So basically I would plunge cut in here, line the panels up in whatever way and tack weld it. And then just keep moving out to keep the new panel at the level of the old panel. And what happens is as you cut doing that, you cut away the metal below and it just drops out. So the only catch to that would be here. Obviously we'd have to make clearance because there's nowhere for it to drop out to, but not too bad. That's easy enough to do with a grinder because we're only talking about taking you know, a little bit off the edge, so not a huge deal. This one we're going to hope to have fit pretty well. We're going to fix these little dents here and bring that up to surface before we move too much further. But that's not too bad. We're going to be able to put that back panel in. We got to cut it up to here yet and peel this piece out where the lip comes up. There's a fold here, so we'll have to cut in and up on this one, in and up on here. And then, of course, basically get this piece out and it's tack welded to the inner piece. So we have more tack welds that we'll be fighting with. But, you know, it's not horrible. I did contemplate, and this is why I stopped short here. I could weld to this. This metal's actually solid. It has some surface rust on it, but it hasn't really lost thickness. So that's the reason I stopped here. In the event that I decide to just bring the panel to here and give me an easier weld than having to undo this tack weld here. So we'll see. I haven't really decided yet, but that back wall, I'm basically going to have to cut a rectangle out of the back wall that is this full width. And what that's going to do is it's going to do a couple things. It's going to release this piece when I do that, but it's also going to cut the whole of rust out of the backside. And then we'll patch that in. And what I'm probably going to do is cut a rectangular patch. Let me get around here and show you, actually. So I'm going to move the camera. Sorry about that. All right, so here we are on the back side. Okay, and down on the bottom here is solid metal. There's no real rust to speak of, surface rust where that lip folds under. But above that, where you see the holes, the floorboard is about this height. So above here is where the water and debris and acid and everything collected. Underneath stayed dry. because it was open to the atmosphere and a lip and it could fall off. So what I think I'll do is go from this joint here, and we're going to cut a rectangle that fits pretty much this entire distance in here. So we're going to cut in, leave the bottom lip, all the way over, cut in, and leave this top body line coming just below it, just like we did over here, and weld in a whole new rectangular piece. So the two things that's going to do is when I cut this out, it's automatically going to release that bottom roll. So the floor pan inside comes in and rolls down, and that down is right in about here, and that's tack welded to this. So as I cut this out, that's going to release that entire tack weld all the way along here, so we don't have to fight it on the inside. So we'll do that. That piece will come out. We'll put a new metal piece in. When we do the floorboard, we'll put the proper roll in the floorboard and then just plug weld it from the inside to get the floorboard reattached along here. All right, so here we are on the back side, and here's that horizontal cut that I made, basically stopping right here, which tells us how far we want to bring our panel over. You can actually see a lap weld where this body panel was over this one. So we're basically coming right up to that lap weld where we're going to put new metal in. So there's a little bit we'll probably have to fill here, but big whoop, right? So no big deal. What we got to see here, though, is how much metal we want to get. So from the body line to there is 2 inches. So we're going to bring that down, say, 1/4 inch. Yep. We'll go down 1/4 inch. So we need 1.5 inches of metal for that. And we need it to be 18 inches long. Okay, so 1.5 inches by 18. We'll throw that in the CNC plasma, cut out a little strip, bring it over here, and start lining stuff up for our cut and butt weld. Okay, so here we are with where we're going to patch, and we've got our piece fresh off the plasma table here. CNC plasma is awesome. Absolutely love having that. What I'm going to do is tack this in place, basically relative to the height of this cut here, because I want to kind of match those and keep enough down here to weld to right on the corner. So when I go to weld this back in place, it'll be easy to blend it. Now, when I go to weld this end, I'm going to have to cut through here to push that in, which is going to release a couple of these tacks. So I'm going to go through and put a tack down here and a little bit more in the corner and a little bit more on the top of this previous piece. That way when I cut this little tack and this little tack, I don't lose my, my correlation here. So let's go ahead and get our tacks in here. Whoop. Little rusted metal on the old stuff. We blew right through. And that isn't from the setting, that was just the rust that was down here. So I'm going to have to rebuild that. Boy, that's a lot rustier than I thought. I thought that bottom lip was in better shape. I'm actually going to have to come down and use a lower current. Didn't want to, but that's so thin there that even that little bit was just blasting right through. There we go, and that'll give us enough that I'll have to grind that flat now because I kind of clamp this over the top of that, but that'll give us enough to hold this bottom and this top when I cut through that middle to butt these two together. So let me get the grinder, clean that up, clean up a couple spots where I can tack this piece to, and then we'll get it tacked on. So I think what I'll do now is come over and cut this left side, because I got to cut that a little bit short, and we're going to plunge that right through, pretty much in line with where this lap weld is. Go straight through there, and that's going to get us a full cut through on the back side to release the floorboard piece internally, so that when I then cut here and here, that piece will be able to just come free. Okay, so what we've basically done is cut through from here to here, and now that piece can be pushed a little bit. I need a couple more tacks right here to hold that, because when I cut through this, I need more width basically before I can push this in to be level. So we're going to work from the middle outward and help it pull itself into place, but definitely going to need another tack right there. And of course, can't put the welding helmet on with the hearing protection on. Strange, right? Let's get one more on the top side. There we go. Now also, you may not notice, but I'm holding the grinder at an angle. This is exaggerated. I'm plunging in this way. It's really a smaller angle. But that way, what happens is that cut is beveled, so that when these push in, that gap closes up. And now we can already see this one is starting to pull in flush right here. That's exactly what we wanted. So while that one is just about flush, we're going to grab a clamp and re-tack weld this right where the other tack weld was. You see we can't get up there, right? That's where the floorboard was. That's exactly what we wanted to see. So I'm going to grab a big magnet. And let's see. I don't know if you'll be able to see like this or not, but all the magnet is really for right now is to give me a reference and something to push on when I put this tack in right here. There we go. And now we have that one welded in flush, held center. So what we're going to do now is do the exact same thing on the bottom, okay? And then we'll start working that piece outward towards those ends. So we've now got a tack holding it flush, two high tacks that we have to, cut free to allow it to recess. So we're going to cut the middle here just like we did the top, recess the middle. Because if we go too far, what will happen is if we do all the tacks at the top, that piece of metal is going to be like this. And then when I go to push it back in, we're going to end up with a high spot all the way through here and kind of a little bend, and it just won't be flat. So we're going to do the same cut along the bottom we just did along the top and repeat this weld, and then we'll move out as we go.
So unfortunately, partway through this clip, unknown to me, my microphone actually died. And there was a lot of instruction that I was giving during this clip on that cut and butt welding process. So what we were really doing is we start from the center, and as stated earlier, we want to get that nice and flush. And then we move outward, cutting the tacks that we had on the overlapping part, cutting straight through both the tack itself and the backing material we tacked to. So that brings the cut completely through and allows the piece of metal to recess flush. So what I'm doing with that hammer is basically just using it as an aid to push the metal in flush. So once it's flush with the surface, you then re-tack it, and then you end up with the complete rear component severed on the inside. There might be some small, very light tacks you have to break through. And here I'm just using that square to be sure that bottom gap is squared up. So here we go inside, prying that piece off, and you see it was pretty easy. I did have a full cut through and had to get up the grinder, but we're good to go.
All right, here we are after all the spot welding and grinding. So you can see we've got everything all welded in. Got the curl underneath where I formed the lip. I got to do this one. There's a little hole. I don't know if you can see it right here, where it was rusted thin, and a little hole here where there wasn't enough metal. So I'm just gonna put a backer in there and just fill it. Basically plug weld it with an aluminum backer so it doesn't stick. And then over here, when grinding, this came through considerably too, very, very thin. That's where the worst of the rust was, on this piece of the back of the truck. So same thing. I'll just put a backer in there, we'll plug weld across it, grind it. There's a little hole to fill there and a little hole to fill there. But for the most part, everything is in. We got a nice straight line across the bottom. Got our piece repaired. Let's go take a look at the inside where it's going to be extra ugly. So here we go on the inside. Let me get a light so you can see. You can see we've got really good welds, good full penetration all the way through. Right here's where we blew through, where it's really thin and rusted. And right here's where it blew through, again, where it was very thin and rusted. So we'll just basically put that backer on there and fill that. But you can see all the way around, nice, good, full penetration welds. This is that little bend I mentioned earlier that we'll just have to hammer down if need be. But really, this lip serves no purpose at all other than rolling under on this piece of metal. Just gives it a little bit of rigidity. So as long as it's rigid enough, that's all that matters for me. So we got that whole piece welded in, all the way from that end over to here, which means we get to start on the floorboard next. So after that, I'm gonna take a little break today. Still feeling a little weak after the sickness coming in, and that pretty much took a bunch out of me. So that's where we are for now. We'll come back, like I said, we're gonna fill those, and maybe I'll do a little video segment on filling that, show how I go about doing that. It's pretty straightforward, but some people might like to see it, who knows. So that, and then the floorboard on the inside. All right.